All right. All right, good morning again, everyone.
Good morning, Neil.
Morning. We have the agenda in front of us, and there's two changes. One is item one, the sheriff vacation payout discussion. Sheriff Pengree is attending a funeral for Vera Bass, so he wanted that to be pushed up ahead, or pushed back to the next meeting.
Okay.
So we'll do that on, I believe it's December 5th. And then also we have an ICAP Board of Directors election ballot, pretty non-controversial, which we'd like to add to the agenda. Any other agenda changes?
With that, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with those two additions.
Okay,
I'll second that.
it's been moved and seconded
Or
to...
additions and deletion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda with an addition and a deletion. Any discussion on that motion? We'll vote. All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Attached is the minutes of the November 21st meeting, and any additions, corrections, or clarifications needed to those minutes.
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Motion has been made to approve the, motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, then let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, Carl, we got you moved up to first place on the agenda. Good morning.
All right.
Morning,
Now I
Carl.
get a promotion.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well deserved. All right.
This is our latest revision after I've gotten some. These versus Carroll, we got. This is
revised.
got some revisions on it from what you printed out. I had some comments from a couple of
Okay.
our department heads, so just made a couple of changes.
All right. Go ahead, Carl. I've reviewed the other one, and what's changed since then?
What has changed since the draft that we had is on, let's see here, page 6. Basically, it's just kind of a little bit of clarification. One of the department heads said, wanted to clarify that people shouldn't bring their own cameras in and plug it into the network, that would be included as electronic equipment, privately owned computer equipment. And just to kind of clarify that cameras were included on that. The USB ports on most machines and the DVD, CD, ROM are blocked, so they're not usable on most machines. There are some department heads and sheriff's department for the deputies that are not blocked because they use them on a regular basis. They'll get evidence from somebody else, or then they have things like Courtney has something come in from the voters. I think it's like once a year, he's saying.
Well, every time we have an election.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She needs to be able to use her USB drive. So there are some people that those are not blocked on, so. But generally, they are blocked. But peripherals like cameras, if you plug in a camera into a USB port, it'll still work. But a USB drive will not. So it's not quite total lockout, but it recognizes certain equipment that gets plugged into a USB drive, and it won't block it or will block it depending on what its capability is. But generally, somebody couldn't, a typical scam is somebody drops a USB drive in the parking lot with a virus on it, and in the hopes that somebody brings it in and plugs it in to the computer to see what might belong to it. That's just a common ploy for getting viruses into a system. So that would not work on any of the machines up here. Now, if somebody does need something transferred, they can bring that USB to us, and we can scan it and then access that USB drive on a computer that's not on the network, and then we can transfer that file for whoever needs it. So, and we do some copying of DVDs and CDs for people that need it. So, We have, for instance, the treasurer's office had a training that was all on DVD for DOT. So I just brought up a separate laptop that's not connected to the network, that they could view that training on their DVD for it. So there's ways to work around everything. Some's a little inconvenient, but I'd rather be err on the side of caution.
My statement would be there's a fine line between convenience and security, and convenience usually wins.
Typically.
So I think it's good that are addressing this policy. I think it's something that maybe came up, that did come up in one of our meetings we had earlier.
Mhm.
And I appreciate you volunteering and following through with it. I reviewed it, and I think it leans a little on the strict side, which is good. I'd rather err on the side of caution, because I do feel people lean towards convenience over safety as a matter of just keeping the ball rolling sometimes.
We're not as strict in this policy on changing passwords. You know, you get to the point where you've got a DOT password, you've got a iVoters password, you've got everybody has their own password, and they have their own change schedule. And then you have so many passwords that all it does is encourage you to write it down, or, which is supposed to be not a wise thing to do. So I did back off on how often the passwords needed to be changed. But
From 90 to 120?
It is required that they be changed.
120 days, that's 3 months, that's about normal, I think.
Yeah, well,
I don't-
90
actually,
days,
I don't
90
think-
days would be 3
Right.
months.
3
Oh,
months,
yeah,
yeah, 4
4
months.
months.
Talk to an IT guy with a cooperative elevator, and theirs automatically locks out. They'll lock you out in 45 days if you don't change your password.
And we'll set the servers up to do that, give you a warning and say, you've got to change it in X number of days, and then it'll automatically block
The
you.
common scenario was the elevator manager say, I can't get on my computer. Well, it's been 45 days, then it's
Yeah.
change your password. Were there any suggestions? Obviously, there's been a suggestion here that you made a change. Were there some that didn't make change, or something that we should consider that somebody brought up? that-
No, nobody has brought up anything.
So who will enforce this? Will you be the one that just, I mean?
On the
'cause that's what
password
we're
side,
getting into.
yeah, it actually, it'll eventually end up with you guys. Because I don't have authority over the elected officials and other department heads. We can, like on the password issue, we can set that up in the server so that it does that automatically. But it ultimately comes down to the department head's responsibility to enforce it, and then you guys are there.
Now, we will have to change our password on our webmail too, right?
Webmail will be different.
That will be different?
Yeah.
That won't be like this?
Right.
My concern is, if you have different department heads handling this differently, I go around and there's people that have like screensavers.
Right,
And-
screensavers are gonna be, some of that's up to the department head, because if it's HIPAA, computers that have HIPAA information on it, then HIPAA policy will override this. And there will have to be screensavers on those, but let's say, for
I'm
instance.
talking about somebody's like personal pictures that
Oh,
are
screensavers, not the screen.
Because the picture had to come from somewhere.
Sure.
And my concern is if not everybody's gonna follow this to the letter, it just takes one person.
Right,
do
because there are
something
different
and
ways
then
to get
we're-
those pictures into the computer. We've had some issues with some employees before. I don't think we have as much. I don't notice any big stashes of personal pictures that have been downloaded like there used to be. But yeah, in order to get your personal family picture on your screen, you've got to get it into the system somehow, whether that's a USB drive or you email it to your account. There's less risk of emailing to your account because the email is getting screened.
On page 4, where you heard we got 10 minutes to the lockout on the screen,
Mhm.
or Control-Alt-Delete, would the Window L key do the same thing?
I don't know, I haven't used it for so long,
Yeah, I was thinking the Windows L key would do the same thing as Control Alt Delete, which is not a part problem.
Well, you don't want to do, Control Delete, but anyhow. It's, and it's only, and it's relates to HIPAA computers that need
Okay.
to do that.
All right, it's my understanding that the Windows L key will do the same thing, but if you got that on your keypad. Well, everyone, all departments have received this.
Right.
You've reviewed all comments. Obviously, you've made some changes
I had a,
because of those.
I did have a long discussion with one department that questions the policy.
Okay.
And basically, my opinion, and I expressed it, was that if the department doesn't want to follow the policy, then they won't be allowed on the network.
We sometimes think this is way out there, but neighboring county, Crawford County, was, they got locked out of their computers. They had to pay by Bitcom to get their computer back. Because assumingly some foreign country, but they don't know where.
Right.
Took over their computers and they had to pay to get it back. And their biggest problem was they had to do it because they hadn't done backups probably. Would this policy prevent that happening in the first place?
You can't prevent everything, because most of the ransomware stuff is caused by someone clicking on the wrong thing on a website, or even just going to a website. Sometimes it can, call a drive-by, where you really
Okay.
don't do anything intentional or even questionable, but just going to some
Okay, so
websites.
that is still possible even if somebody's following this to the letter. But we're properly backed up, so
We're double backed up, actually, and our firewall device is, does a really good job of keeping everything out, but of course, those, what they call 0-day, that you get a new virus come in and nobody's seen it before, you're still vulnerable to things like that the companies that do the firewalls and antivirus and malware, they can't anticipate everything.
So, as an analogy, well, you're well aware of what happened and how it happened at Crawford County, and there's other counties I think where it happened too, but.
There have been several counties that have been hit by ransomware.
Yeah, that just one I actually talked to the supervisor, but as far as rules of the road, you got all the safety rules, we're following all the traffic signals and everything here, and we're still susceptible to having an accident, I suppose.
Right. Nothing's
Okay.
guaranteed.
Nothing's 100%.
Well, I don't, and I personally think this is a good policy. I mean, Neil, you kind of said it might be on the strict side. I don't know that there's such thing as being too strict today with what's out
Yeah.
there. And I have no problems with it after I read it.
Actually, we're somewhat liberal in that we don't do what's called whitelisting, where we only allow people to go to certain websites. We could say, well, you can only go to DOT, you can only go to, it's a lot of work to do whitelisting. Some companies are that way. They get very restricted. But especially in the private sector, if they're protecting proprietary information, they need to be.
Okay, just to clarify that, we just got a deal here where we can vote by mail, or we can go to www.whatever.com to vote. So if that wasn't on the wait list, you couldn't do that?
You couldn't go there. And then, our phone would just be ringing constantly. Okay, I need to go here and I need to go there.
Yeah.
And we get some of that now because we do have a program in our firewall that does block certain, it looks for certain keywords and blocks those websites. And once in a while, it'll get one that it interprets as something it needs to block, and we need to go unblock it. For instance, a training site that the treasurer's office was going to use, and I needed to go unblock that, or the sheriff's office was needing to get to a certain training site. So we've got to go in there occasionally and in our firewall and whitelist some of those. Generally, it's a pretty good judge your character, basically, and it will block sites that people shouldn't be going to.
Assuming the board approves to go ahead and adopt this policy, what's our next step, Carl?
I will, I plan on having a training session in December, available to all employees and all departments, to go over the policy and just other general security information.
Is it okay for us to adopt this today, or should we adopt it with a future effective date until after you have your training? What would be the best?
Well, I would say you go ahead and adopt it today. We will it'll probably take us a couple of weeks. We'll probably make the password changes effective 1st of January, just so that we can get it set up in the servers the way we want it to be. And it takes a little bit of work to do that, especially with, hopefully, we're getting a telephone system between now and then as well. And so we're kind of busy, but we could get it implemented by then. So.
Have we had any other kind of policy? This
has been probably, since I've been here, it's probably the second, this would be the third revision. We've
Okay.
had one, and it was pretty general, and then we came up with the one that's here that we're now amending. So this is probably the third revision of the IT policy. And then the one actually the HIPAA document is even more strict for those that it applies to.
If this policy is adopted, and a department or employee comes to me and says, this just doesn't work, here's what I do. I'd say, you go to Carl first, and if he can't solve it, then you both come to the board.
Sure.
Would that be a correct procedure?
Yeah.
And
You'll be
so
our firewall.
You had said that there was a department that wasn't interested in this, and then you said they wouldn't be connected to the server. Is that gonna be an issue? Or not the server, but the network?
The network, well, I did inform the department head that they would be responsible for their own server, their own setup, and their own support for that. So that decision hadn't been made. It was just, that was a discussion, and they were gonna think about it.
What was their problem? Password?
Yeah.
That's,
Okay.
to me, is not a very legitimate reason.
I don't buy that one either.
Well, I can understand it, but it's just to myself, I've got all kinds of passwords for all kinds of places I go.
It's frustrating.
And it's a hassle to have to change them every once in a
Yeah,
while.
there's no doubt about that.
They don't want to do that.
Well, I know it.
It's a convenience, safety issue.
And more than likely, they're not backing things up, and when something does happen, they're gonna come straight to you.
Well, it's all, everything's backed up.
But when Department A can affect the whole
Mhm.
crew, then it becomes a
But there
different
needs to be
issue.
more. And there is some separation, but not total separation.
Right. What's the wishes of the board?
I'd make a motion to go ahead and approve the policy that Carl has put together, and if there's any other issues, we can work with Carl and go from there.
Would you like to place an effective date on that, like January 1st?
Should we go January 1? Is that for the passwords, you want that time frame?
Okay.
I will second that.
All right. We have a motion on the floor to adopt the updated computer systems and equipment policy and to have it totally effective on January 1st, 2017, obviously. All right, that's the motion that's been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? I just want to thank you again, Carl, for doing the work on this. I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. This is adopted and become effective January 1st.
Good work, Carl.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you.
Do we need to make a note in there that this was also for the media policy?
The media policy?
The media device, is that all part of that, you think? Or should we make a note that includes that?
No, that's all part of the policy.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure we got it covered.
Okay, just so I don't forget, we're gonna handle the ICAP thing here next on our discussion. This was sent to Gene Miners. They probably assumed him to be the current chairperson, and that's fine. But it's the ICAP Board of Directors election ballot, and we have the option of voting twice, once in each category for the city and county representative. There's only two candidates, Tom Roth from City of Bellevue and Dave Hagen, who represents Winnebago County but is not a county supervisor. Does anybody want to look at this at all? Otherwise, I would purpose of adding it to the agenda is that we could authorize Carroll County to vote for the two candidates.
I so move that we vote for those two candidates.
I'll second that.
All right, then we can second it to cast our ballots for the two candidates as opposed to having write-in. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We'll vote for those two candidates. Okay, next is Maple River sewer fee discussion.
I had a request from a property owner that there was a trailer on this piece of property. The trailer was sold and moved. Now it's just a bare lot. And they wanted to know if they had to continue to pay the $55. And I gave everybody a copy of this agreement. It talks about how if there's new construction, what the property, it's all the property owner's cost to hook up and things like that. But it doesn't talk about what happens, if a house would burn down and they wouldn't rebuild, or if they had a trailer and it got moved.
Or house
So,
tore down.
Yeah, we need to,
Is there an ordinance in regard to Maple River
it's a fee ordinance. It talks about,
that doesn't talk about any of this stuff though, huh?
no. Because I looked at the ordinance and it talked about the rate and when it was due and what happened if you didn't pay and things like that. It didn't talk about what happens if the structure's gone. So, this might be a little more of a involved decision than just, at least we can discuss it and I guess decide where to go with it.
Well, the purpose of it, if you have enough users, the idea is to have enough users to make that payment that we have. And, if you'd have a community that always is adding properties, it wouldn't be a big issue. But when you get a smaller community, it becomes an issue. But also, I'm gonna throw a little more mud into the thing. I got to think about this last night. There's another issue that should come up here. How was it abandoned? Was it abandoned property? I mean, we don't want that line abandoned in the wrong way, that there's infiltration and causing more usage to the sewer system than what's available.
Good point.
This is something I thought of
Yeah.
Mhm.
late last night. But I think whatever we do here, and I don't know if we want to act on this right now, but this is something that we have to watch very delicate. We don't want to open up a can of worms. And yet I can see where there's an issue here. But at the same time, we don't want to have a community where we're not making the payments neither.
Is this something maybe we should have John review as far as the legal way of it?
That would be fine. I haven't talked to
I
him.
don't think he's gonna
thought-
come up with anything more on it.
I think he'd be, if it was a legal issue, he'd be glad to take it, but I think this is a policy issue, which is ours.
Yeah.
If it was a legality thing, by all means, I'd encourage John, but I don't see this crossing those lines. It's just a call we have to make. There's a gray area, then if we prove this, then what if a residence is sitting empty for, still there but sitting empty, see that as an issue as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, an abandoned home.
And I hate-
Where do you draw the line?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but you almost gotta look at these on an individual basis.
And do we have a
Yet
policy?
you don't want to neither.
Do we have a hookup policy as well?
Well, it talks about how it would be the owner's expense
To hook it up?
yeah.
But
I guess the other thing, are they in the process of selling this property to somebody else, or are they just gonna leave it?
As far as I know, it's just a lot, an empty lot right now, and she didn't talk about whether or not they were going to sell it. She just talked about how it was an empty lot, but the trailer was moved. The trailer was sold and moved.
So as I understand it, technically, they're on the rolls, they're required to pay. They want an exception policy to get off the rolls so they can discontinue paying, and the reason is because there's no living facility on that, the trailer house, no house, no nothing. So if we do nothing, they're gonna keep paying and it stays the same. So a lack action is a determination in here. But just out of courtesy, we should respond to them, tell them that we either have determined not to act on it, and the reason why, or if we do act, we have to certainly justify that as well.
Well, and I can see their reasoning why they wanted to have it terminated. I mean,
Sure.
nobody
Why
wants-
pay on it if you don't
Nobody
have
wants
to?
to pay something when they're not using it.
Mhm.
And I don't have an issue with that, but I have an issue if you also start getting a bunch of them, pretty soon you get enough to make the payments.
I guess the other thing I kinda look at, like a utility bill with electricity, whether you use it or not, you pay a minimum amount. Maybe that's something we need to look at, even if there's nothing there.
You know, and that $55 they're paying is not just paying for them, you know, to have it now. It's paying the county back for installing it in the first place. So, you know, when you buy a property over there, you're kind of taking some of that on, so that it's debt, but in a different form, I guess.
And future availability as well.
Yeah, Marty makes a good point. Maybe there should be a minimum, you know. And it
I
should
mean,
be, and it should be properly closed, I think, too. I think that,
Yeah, I mean, you could have a lot more problems just by giving a lot extra,
Yeah.
create more load for the system.
well, and the other thing, too, I mean, somebody could, 6 months from now, could move a trailer in there, hook it up, and
Mhm.
Yeah, then what do we do?
nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, really, it's there. It can be hooked up.
Squatters' rights.
Okay, I'll just state the question this way. We've had a request for a change of policy or to change our situation there. And a reasonable request, I would say. Is there any interest in this board to make an exception to our policy? If there's not, I think we should send them a courtesy letter saying that we respect your question, but have determined not to make an exception and maybe state a few of our reasons. That's part of the expense of establishing it, part of the expense of having it available. And,
So what happens if you have an estate and the same thing happens?
Mhm.
okay. Okay. All right, is there any motion to?
Can we let's do this? Instead of making a determination, let's do some more digging. I'd like to talk to some communities.
Want to sit on it a week?
Yeah, see if I can talk, well, let's go 2 weeks, 'cause I'm gonna be gone most this week. I may talk to some communities, see what they say.
Okay.
Mhm.
I see no reason to
Yeah, I'm fine.
put a,
Yeah, I might
Deadline.
talk to somebody in Maple River, too, and,
See what the thoughts are.
yeah.
And it might be nice if we set up a policy in Maple River to have it in Mount Carmel as well.
Yeah.
'cause we
Right,
run into
yep,
that
yep,
up
yep.
there,
Because
too.
that could happen.
okay. All right, let's inform the person that we're going to consider it keep it for consideration for 2 weeks. And if they have any additional comments to submit before, we'll just plan on doing it in 2 weeks. Is that give me enough time, Gene? If they have any additional comments, they should contact their supervisor or you before the next meeting, before the meeting of
December 12th.
December 12th. Okay? All right.
And you said the ordinance only covers
It's a
the
rate
fee.
ordinance.
Rate, that's all it
Yeah,
covers.
And I can get you a copy of that if you want,
Yeah,
but
would
it's
you
just a
please?
rate ordinance.
Yeah, I'll take a copy of that, too.
Okay. 12/12/16. Okay. Next, I'm gonna skip over Meadowview, because I wanna make a copy of your paper for you. We're gonna move on to the payables. Are there any payables that we need to discuss here?
No, I think it's one of the lowest ones we've had in a long time.
I had some questions, and I had my answers to those questions, so I don't see no problem with tables.
No.
I had pulled a few. One was the jailer copier overreach, and that's just what it is. They've had a contract to do so many copies, and they went over that, so I don't know if that's a common thing or not. Might want to look into that a little bit. That was the only one that I had a question on.
I'll make a motion to approve the tables.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion was made and seconded to approve payables. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, then we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, both same sign. Payables are approved. Okay, now we'll go to Maple River discussion. Probably should have had these earlier for you. Or, excuse me, Mallard View. And maybe that's Courtney. This is a copy of an email I received on, after our other meeting. It was November 22nd. It's from Sherry and Stacy at Mallard View. And this is the exact information. I thought I would have it for you to read as opposed to me paraphrasing it to you. But basically what they're saying is they're going to be wrapping things up here the first of the month as far as clients. And they're asking us to forgive the December rent. No clients, no income was their comment there. And then also, is there a date where the board is wanting to Mallard View to have everything out? So, two requests. They're asking forgiveness of the December rent. Secondly, when do we want to have them have all their equipment, everything out of there?
Actually, isn't there three? They want to know if they can leave the files there till the building's sold?
Yes, and then leave the files there. And I didn't respond to any of these. Well, I did. Basically, my response was I would bring this to the board today for your consideration. This is the three, if they want us to store the records there until the building's closed. On the third one, as far as the records, I don't have any problem leaving there until the unit is sold. I don't want to be a full-time keeper of their records. This has been a private organization, it's not a county organization, and there are some records that I have to keep for a long time. And my preference would be that they figure that out rather than hand the responsibility to us. If it was a county organization, fine, but Mallard View is a private entity. And then, is there a date that the board would want them to have everything out? I would probably want to defer that decision until we decide whether or not we got it sold. Obviously, if we get it sold and somebody wants to get in there right away, it would have to be accelerated, and if it doesn't get sold or someone buys it who's got a lot of patience, we just have to adapt to them, and we'll find that out here in a few weeks.
Well, we gave them to December 31st, didn't we?
Yep. They've got till December 31st now.
Okay, so they got a month to move everything out.
Yes.
I'm just okay with that, I guess. I don't know how much did they have to move of theirs?
You know,
I'm not sure they're gonna
They-
move everything out.
Well, that's
They
what
have a
I'm
lot of-
wondering.
they have a lot of stuff in that basement.
Are they gonna be so kind as to move everything out?
I've addressed the issue a long time ago about some of the stuff sitting around outside, and directly talked to Steve about that, and he maintained he would have it all taken care of, and a lot of it has been moved already. But I didn't see much move in the basement when I gave the, down there a couple weeks ago.
That's actually, yeah, that shed outside, that includes that month, the end of the.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, stuff down there.
yeah, that's gotta go too.
I have, you know, I think you're on the right track. I don't want to let this procrastinate too long either.
Yeah. I mean, they got, I mean, if nobody's in there now, I mean, they've got adequate time, I think, to move everything out. They got 30 days and.
And right now, the weather's looking, I mean, they've got pretty decent weather for end of November, December at this point.
Mhm.
You know, if you're gonna move, now's the time to start moving.
I would say let's leave it that way.
December 31st?
Yeah.
Okay. Any different thoughts there? Okay, all right. And then, any different thoughts on the storage proposed or better than what I'd mentioned as far as December 31st on those two?
I think so.
Good.
That's what I would do.
Okay.
I
All
think
right.
if you give them any more, they're just gonna take more.
And then, how about the December rent? I believe the rent is $2,500 a month, is that what it is?
It's got reduced in half, but.
Oh, we'd reduce that as well, that's right. It was $2,500 a month, and we have reduced that to 1,000, half?
1,000 or 1,250?
1250.
1250, yeah.
1250,
If I remember right. Well, I don't think they should have to dig into their own pockets and pay that, and I would be okay with forgiving that rent.
I have no idea what their financial situation is.
Yeah, I don't
They're just
either.
asking for another $1,000 or what, I don't know.
I don't either. I'm sure it ain't that great.
I don't think it can be either.
But
Made them, it wasn't in the past, I know.
they didn't offer that, so.
I don't have any problem forgiving the rent for December.
Okay.
I mean, we're down to the end of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
If they can help us with the other stuff and get it out.
Okay.
That's true.
The general discussion, as I'm taking it, is we'll forgive the rent, but we wish for them to find their own storage and have their equipment out of there by December 31st. Is that be correct? Should we have a motion to that effect, just to make it?
I'll make that motion to forgive the rent and to have basically everything moved out by the end of the year, December 31st.
I'd second that motion.
All right, the motion is made and seconded to forgive the rent, but request that it be, the records and other stuff be out of there by the end of the year. Any more discussion on that? Okay, let's vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion's carried. I'll inform them of that.
Along those same lines, do we change the locks or anything like that at the end of the month, or?
You know, let's see what happens when we open our,
Oh, sure.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Obviously, if they're still owning it at that time, we should probably change the locks, yeah. That's a good point, Dean.
Another, and I was gonna bring it up during community meetings, but I can say it right now. Home care aides are moving today,
Okay.
so.
Oh, great.
They're moving
They
out.
got the phone system worked out and everything?
Yep, I was gonna talk to Carl about that, but I think they got the phone system worked out, and it costs $250 to have Pettit's move for them, so.
That's not bad.
Great.
So they'll get everything moved.
How many rooms are they going to need?
I guess I'm not sure about that.
Um,
And they did, you know, they said things weren't terribly convenient because it's so cut up, you know, so I don't know if they can hold a meeting in that building. We'll probably be holding our Board of Health meetings down below
Okay.
in the meeting room in the courthouse from now on, until something else is done.
There's a
you know.
nice meeting room where case management's at.
Case
Yeah,
management
in
does
that
have a
back room.
nice meeting room,
They-
but they were wondering about, you know, that type of traffic, so,
The other
in
thing-
there.
The other thing that's concerned there is HIPAA policy with stuff in there too.
Their stuff should all be locked in cabinets in their
Yeah.
offices, but yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was the only concern there. You know, and they talked about, you know, I mentioned, well, do you need a wall down? She said, well, you know, once you do that, then you have ceiling tiles that don't match and
Mhm.
carpet that, you know, so I think they were okay with everything just the way it was, just to get moved.
I don't think there's a problem with them using that meeting room back there at all. We use it for other meetings.
Okay,
Interviews and that we use it for.
okay.
I mean, they
Yeah.
don't use it that often. It's a very nice meeting room,
Yeah.
about as big as this room. So, while we're in this, I'll jump ahead to one of my committee reports too, and it has to do with the office space there. I got back to the entity who was interested in renting an office there and told them of our offer. They will bring it, she'll bring it to her board in January. And she understands there's no hurry on that, so if anything changes before January, you know, that it's not available, we better let them know. So they aren't gonna even look at it till January, but they thought it was okay, but we'll find out in January.
Okay.
Okay, got all, Mallard View and Home Health and this other, it all ties together. Okay, anything else on Mallard View or its associated issues, situations? Okay, got the payables, plats, we have two plats.
Oh, there was one more thing.
Yes.
And there are tables, she said, down there, that she doesn't know what to do with them,
Tables were.
out at Home Care Aids.
Or that
The
they
county,
have.
the county's tables, and she
And
didn't
she
know.
needs to move them.
So-
That's, I
Are
guess
those
that's
the
what
ones
I
that are in the
was-
kitchen yet, probably?
No, even those white ones you mean?
Yeah.
No, these are other ones, she said, because I asked her about that. She said she doesn't know where they came from. They've been there. They don't use them. So, I'll talk to her this afternoon. I was gonna check and see how she was getting along.
If it's county property, we're gonna have a little sale or storage, I guess, is the option. If nobody wants them, just say, hey, anybody need a table? And there'd be a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, I think we might have to have a
Where
county
we're gonna
garage
either
sale,
need to,
something.
Have a little sale of some kind, or
Yeah.
just to dispose of it, or
Right. Okay.
store it.
Okay, all right.
You know, speaking of that, there is a sale this Friday, but it's out the sale board. I think there's a couple trailers out there that Grease is at. We're looking at that trailer yet.
Are they?
I don't know what condition they're in. I have no idea.
Yeah,
I'm sure we'd want to get a pretty good one, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be okay with that too. I think the
Yeah, we haven't
consensus
had
when
that.
we talked about that last was to see what happens out there first,
Yeah.
rather than buy a trailer that you find out you don't need.
Yeah.
That could happen too.
right.
Okay. Okay, we're ready for plats? All right, let's move to plats. We have two plats. One is a 40 in Jasper Township. The other is a quite small parcel of irregular land in Grant Township.
That's basically tie into an existing acreage, and there's a creek that line.
Creek that
that's
runs
on-
across it, yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is gonna tie into that, or what?
Mhm.
Okay. I was wondering why it was so small.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
too. Otherwise,
I meant to ask Carl about that, and I didn't get it done.
you and I are the same track. I was just sitting there thinking,
Okay,
God, they
So
know.
this is lot one that has a building on it,
Yeah.
and it's gonna tie into that
Yeah,
apparently.
and this is a creek along here.
Yeah, that's,
So that is gonna tie into that there.
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
that answers the question that I had on
Yep.
that. Okay, those are our two plats. Any other discussion on these?
I'd make a motion to approve the two plats.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve two plats. Any discussion on that? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, we have two manure managements. One is Daniel D. Potroff, Section 26, Jasper Township, no changes. And then we have a, looks like an amended original update, and I am not sure what the amendment is on it, because when I get it, it's the whole big thing. It looks just like an original to me. And I'm not sure what the amendment is on it, but it has to do with A&J Farms, Alan and Joanne Lunders, Section 1, it's in Hayes Township, Crawford County, but our only interest in is that they're using land in Carroll County to apply their manure. So I have no issue with it, regardless of what the amendment was. And maybe that was the amendment, to add some Carroll County land, but, okay, committee reports. Marty, let's start with you today.
Okay, the only thing I had last week was Wesco. We didn't have enough people there to have a quorum last weekend, or last Monday, so we couldn't make any decisions. We basically just talked about the transition house in Vale. It is full at this point. It has a waiting list of 3 people, so that is going well. Also talked a little bit about our audit. John Morrow is in the process of working on the audit right now, and we got some issues to work with through there as far as the audit, just as far as the new rules with the MCOs and that kind of thing. And I will be meeting with them sometime in December to kind of go through that, and hopefully we'll have the final audit put together by the end of the year. So that's pretty much my week last week, and then this week we've got the ISAC Executive Board meeting in Des Moines tomorrow evening, and after that I'm going on vacation for a few days, and then we'll get into next week.
Thank you, Mark. Gene?
I had nothing this last week with the holidays, and then this week I have a executive board meeting at ISAC Supervisors tomorrow evening, and then ISAC the rest of the week. And so that will be, that's all I have.
Okay. Dean?
Let's see, what did I have? Well, I was just gonna update on the home care aides moving today. And, you know, I looked at the email that Courtney sent us about the West Nishnamada watershed, and, you know, I just kind of put it off. I don't know if anybody else has had any thoughts about that. But the West Nishnabotna comes up into probably the part of Carroll County that flooded the last.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I was gonna give Harvey Dale a call, and
It affects many. I did the
Yeah.
same thing, I guess. I looked at it. It goes up in that Manning area in there. The east only covers like just right south of Templeton.
right.
And that, would that mean until December, what?
14th? Yeah.
You know, I don't know, do we want to send somebody down there or get?
Well, I was just thinking about it. I'd go
think we
down.
would- I was thinking too, I could too, but
You know, I was gonna give Harvey a
if we're gonna
call.
be involved in all of them, we just will be involved in those two too. So,
Well, only considered, you know, that it's, you know, I mean, that's the last place in Carroll County that flooded, and it's
Yeah.
probably the most vulnerable or susceptible of flooding, so. And it, you know, any kind of work that's gonna be done in Carroll County would probably be upstream of that, so it'd be county. And I would think that Manning, the city of Manning would be interested in doing some things if there was federal funding available, so. I just brought it up. I was gonna give Harvey a call. I'll call Harvey and see if they've done anything, or maybe they've been to the first, this is a second meeting coming up, so.
Well, I would hope that whatever they do, they run the east and west together. You know.
Yeah, right, if you can do anything, yeah.
Well, the other thing that we're kind of involved in it is when we worked with rural water and put those wells in down south of Manning. I mean, that kind of affects that. So, I mean, we've already got a little bit of.
And we got investment.
Little bit of a risk in there
Already, yeah.
with the flooding part,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, we put that Lowhead Dam.
Lowhead Dam in south of Manning.
Okay, and that was yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know
it was
anything
before
about
you
that, yeah.
came on.
It was a, kind of what's that program?
It was working with DNR.
Hungry Canyons?
Hungry Canyons, there, that's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
think.
And DNR.
Yeah, there was a lot of people involved with that, DNR, Hungry Canyons, Rural Water, yeah.
Anyway, I thought I would just go ahead and give Harvey a call, and maybe I'll plan on attending that when it comes up. That's all I had for the week, and then this week I just have, I'm gonna update the Farm Bureau on Thursday at their meeting on things going on in the county. That's all I have for the week.
Okay, thank you. All right, the main meeting I had last week was Rolling Hills, and it was a interesting meeting. I'll break it down. The budget was a part of the discussion, and preliminarily, due to the changes in population, with our population in the region going down, the per capita rate in some of the lower counties is going up just a little bit. That's the way the formula works. And the lowest lid or ceiling that we have is still, of course, Buena Vista at 3267. And doing our preliminary budget for FY18 at 3267 per capita puts us in pretty solid financial shape. So that is our target for what we're planning to do for our budget for FY18 for Rolling Hills, to be 3267 per capita. And that's subject to change, but that's what we're looking at right now. And Don has got some projections going out to how long we'll be able to go with that rate, and it gets us up in, out there quite a ways in 2021, and still having 48% carryover, so that's pretty good shape. Then we had a very interesting discussion about a DHS had a report to the legislature, and it was a pretty long report. It basically was DHS's report about how the different regions were doing, and we recognize the fact that they had kind of a negative tone on it. There are some certain things that they're pushing. One is larger districts. They made it quite clear that the districts were originally asked to have like 200,000 people, and there's several that are below that. And so I think they're gonna really push. There's, wow, over half of the regions have less than 200,000. In fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 14 are over that amount. So they're gonna be pushing to have this region map consolidated into more regions.
There's 9 regions now, is that correct?
There are 14 regions.
14
now.
regions.
So they want less regions.
So they're looking to have more. They talked about the levy limit, and this is like that 3267 as the new law is. That's all that Buena Vista County would be required to pay. And one of the comments in here is that counties with higher MHDS levy limits perceive they are subsidizing counties that have lower levy limits. This perceived inequity, I don't know why they're calling it perceived, it's reality. But that's how they kind of brushed aside the things that they want, and they're saying, well, if we all would budget for our maximum levy, for example, cranked up, there'd be no problem at all, and financially, and there wouldn't be, but this perceived inequity is a real thing. I don't know why they call it a perception. They're calling reality perception, which I've heard that perception is reality. In this case, the opposite is true. It really is real. So anyhow, there's some things like that in this report that kind of put a negative tone on it. Yes, they did address some of the many good things that many districts do. There's some problems other districts have that I don't need to go into. Well, for example, I think there's one region where they're having a rotating CEO, where every year somebody else is going to be a CEO, as opposed to having a seat, like Don is our permanent CEO. That is not working out, according to the report.
I can't imagine how that would work out.
As far as financing it, they're very critical of what we got away with using our reserve to spend down, but we're kind of out of the woods on that. So I want to compliment our board for sticking together and saving our county taxpayers. I always said this was $1 million issue, and it was actually a $3 million issue that we saved our taxpayers. And they aren't very happy with that. They're saying how it was set up so that shouldn't happen, but there was a loophole and we used it. But anyhow, overall, it was kind of a negative report, and we kind of need to watch with the DHS, how they lobby the legislatures, and work with that. In light of that, we are having a meeting with our legislatures on December 16th, I believe we've got it for, and, or maybe it's the 8th, I gotta check my calendar. But we've invited our legislatures here, and the key thing that we're gonna talk about with them, and about the only topic we really have to talk to them, is this inequity, where, for example, BB County's gonna pay 3267, and we're expected to pay anything above that the other counties are. There's 3 counties in our region, us, Sac, and Crawford, who've got 47, 28, and the rest have a lesser amount, with BB being the least amount. But wow, we look at the charts that they got in here, and this perceived inequity is huge. And whichever one, South Sioux Rivers. There's one where Plymouth County has a 1467, and they're in with other
Jeez.
counties, Sioux, but there's some issues where some counties with a huge population, absolutely huge population, have very little levy, and they're just gonna break some of the smaller counties that are in them. So this perceived inequity or lack of parity is gonna cause a big issue, and people are gonna have to leave districts. And our point is, we need to fix this and have everybody paying the same as it was set up, even though there's no longer reimbursement from the legislature. The biggest problem is Farm Bureau, since it's property taxes, say, well, they have not been in favor of it. They're the entity that stopped it last time, and they'd like to change it to a sales tax or something like that issue, but I don't think it's feasible to make that type of change in one legislative session. And that's what we're gonna be talking to our legislatures about, just correcting kind of the hidden little secret that there's frozen levy rates. So that was our discussion there, and we're meeting with the legislatures on that. And Marty mentioned this before, but Stepping Stones over there at Vale is full, and they do have a waiting list. And how many's on that waiting list?
3 people on the waiting list.
But it's perpetually full now. When one person comes out, the next entity comes in.
How long are they in there, 30 days?
Up to 90 days, well, 30, they can be up to 90 days if I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah, they're,
And this is kind of like a halfway house.
And what is capacity? 14 or something?
7 is what they can.
7? Oh.
Is what they can
Yeah, I thought it was more
And
than
this
that.
is old school or rectory?
That's
The old,
So rectory.
The old rectory.
That's managed by Wesco, which is a
Yeah.
board that Marty sits in, so him and I both kind of, Clay was at our meeting to explain that to us, and he does a great job over there. Bunch of other little things we ironed out at our meeting, but those are the highlights that are of interest to this board. Okay. Some other things I had for committee reports, Mallard View, I think we covered that in the Fricky office. I just wanted you to know that I followed up on that. Also, the Raccoon River watershed, that information for change that we and John, the spelling thing, and I did forward that on. And another thing I wanted to bring up, in committee reports, is in August, the Federal Emergency Management Agency contacted us and said that they would publish in the paper the FEMA flood zones, and people had until November 25th to appeal this. Has anyone received any appeals? Have you received any? Okay. Then the appeal period is officially over for the FEMA emergency management flood designation thing. It's the National Flood Insurance Program is what it's about. They published a map and contacted certain people, and if they had a legitimate thing, they were supposed to contact us. And obviously, unless Mark has got one, which I'm sure he doesn't, we're done with that.
What should we do anyway?
Couple other little things I wanted to bring up. One is the overtime thing has been kind of put on stop by the courts, so I guess everything we have done on that or thought about doing is just on hold, but will not go into effect on December 1st is the key thing, the new overtime standards. And then finally, you may have seen this from Bill Heckroth. He sent a thing about the minimum wage in Iowa. There's been some counties do the minimum wage, and the legislature. And the key thing on this is whether or not you're in favor of changing minimum wage here or there. The governor is talking about avoiding a hodgepodge system, and I don't know if they're going to act on it, but the key thing is he identifies the fact that we're doing this with local control, and I think there was a statement made that, like, well, we can't do too much as a state as long as local control is handling this. And I just don't want the governor to do anything to hurt our local control on a global basis because of the overtime issue. So that's something that ISAC is gonna be watching, and we should too. Okay, got that. North Raccoon, they're having a meeting on Tuesday in Storm Lake, which I intend to attend. And that's for this week. And also for this week, I have RSVP and foster grandparents. All right. And Dean, you have radio and newspaper this week?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. Courtney, what do you have for anything, reports or agenda for next week?
Just to make you aware, there's a meeting at City Hall tomorrow. It's regards to a new TIF area in Carroll. It's this area just to the east of us and to the south of Kirk's. I don't know if you've read anything in the paper, but that area, they're adding that to their original TIF area. So the school and the county are invited to attend to find out what their plans are and things like that, because it'll affect our taxing authority on that area. The meeting is at 2 o'clock, City Hall tomorrow. I plan on going, so.
I will be in Storm Lake at the Raccoon Watershed meeting.
Yeah,
but,
I plan on going, and I've talked to Laura a little bit and kind of gotten a heads up of what they're planning on, but, and I can certainly report back what I hear. Next week, so we'll talk about the vacation time of the sheriff's office, and we'll need to set a public hearing for the Mallard View RFPs. Because deadline on those is,
17th.
yeah, we'll wanna open them on the 19th, so we need to set a hearing to do, because it'll be just have a note to set public hearing, 10 a.m. for the RFPs. And then Zach brought this to me. He received a request from one of the department heads about the lighting of the courthouse. And they're, apparently weren't happy with it. So there's a company out there that did some work and did a lighting proposal. So I'll just pass this around. It's just for review. Nothing that had been even in the plans to do. We did update our lights not that long ago with, these aren't LEDs, but they're a higher efficiency. I'm not sure what kind of bulbs these are, but they're not LEDs, and this would be LEDs.
Well, several years ago, we did a energy study, and at that point, we changed a lot of our lights over to a more efficient lighting, including these.
Yes, and these would be LEDs.
That's the new
Okay.
gig, yeah, LEDs are the new gig.
So, plus,
Since we did that report, these LEDs really kicked on here.
so anyway, I just wanted you guys to see that. They do have some
They're not-
different.
No, they're not cheap.
They have some different options, but, of course, that'd be a board decision, so that's really all I have.
Okay. All right. In the mailbag, two things I'll pass around that came this week. Source water protection meeting, and this has to do with the city of Manning, which kind of isn't the Nishnabotna, but it's very, very close. And then we also got some information from the German Heritage, Manning House Barn Heritage Park. Thank you for continued support of the project, is what they're saying, and they got some information about that. That was received in our mail this week for us. Are there any comments from those in attendance?
Yes. How is the ongoing expenses of Mallard View to be funded until it's sold or whatever?
It's county property, so it's gonna fall on us. I'm not, we don't have anything budgeted for that, but as far as January 1st, the light bill switches over to us, et cetera.
In fiscal 17, there's $10,000 budgeted for Mallard View. expenses. We've spent a little bit of that on just repairs they've had, but a majority of that is still available in the budget.
Yeah, they shouldn't be spending any of that on washing machines or anything like that.
They did have a repair on one of their freezers, but that's understandable because they would have had to fix it to keep the food good, so.
Okay.
And it was a couple $100s. So I guess the remaining of that 10,000 could be used for utilities and things like that. We shouldn't need to take any additional